We've got a lot of speakers from different associations. We've got an MP here, Simon Hughes, and we've got the usual dignitaries and the usual people that show interest. And the Jewish Board of Deputies are here, so everyone that wants to speak will get a chance. There's some that are not here, but they will be here, and we'll be fitting people in as we go along. The first person to speak today doesn't need any introduction, but for the sake of it I will introduce him, and this is Grattan Puxton, who is virtually the godfather of the Gypsy Traveller Roma in England, in the UK and across Europe and beyond Europe. So this is Grattan Puxton.
I've not prepared anything, so I'm just speaking how it comes out. And it's a day for grief because of the huge numbers who died in what I call the European New Order, because somehow by calling it that, it reflects also what is going on today. The rise of racism, the rise of anti-Gypsy killings, which involves migrants and Jewish people. So it's good to see us together here. And I appreciate every one of you who come to pay respects to those who have died, but also to feel that you are with us in the ongoing building of a Roma movement, a Roma nation, because we are big in numbers, 12 million in Europe, maybe as many as 15, 20 million across the world, but our voice is not strong enough. Our voice has not risen yet, but it will rise. And it rises partly on the ashes of the Holocaust, as indeed the Jewish nation had to do the same after the war. So you're here, and I'm here, and we are together, and we have come here many years, but there is a critical thing happening now, because the government several years ago set up the Holocaust Commission and neglected to involve Roma as in the decision making, to have them members of that commission. It's very late in the day now, but I was just thinking this morning, because the commission has the remit to be a watchdog on developing genocides, then it is really important and right that Roma should be part of that. That there's going to be a learning center, and what I would like to see in that learning center is a room or an expo, a part of the setup that changes month by month, so that if there's a killing, as there has just been in Czech Republic, there have been 3 young women died in a firebomb attack on a caravan in Italy. These things could be reflected in such a learning center, so that everybody's kept up to date in what is happening. I myself years ago did research on the Holocaust, and then we used to think that's something in the past, that's something dreadful that happened. But unfortunately now our eyes are opened to the fact it is on us today. The rise of racism is all around us, a terrible tide which all of us have to fight, and we shall fight together.
I think we would all agree with anything that you said there. What I'd like to do now is read out a message sent to us by the Vice Chair of the National Gypsy Traveller Roma Council. He can't be here today because he's in Hungary meeting with ministers there in regards to this very Holocaust Commission representation. And this is Garbo Boris, the Vice Chair of the National Gypsy Traveller Council. And he says, "This August the 2nd, in these times of European political crisis, we all come together in collaboration and remembrance of the human devastation suffered by the Roma peoples between the years 1939 and 1945. As we know, both Roma, Gypsy, Jewish and many other peoples were slaughtered basically for who they were. We do this because we remember, and we remember we must, a common responsibility and obligation. For it is only with united strength and stance that we may confront the politically extremist views coming into being at this present point in history. This is because of our race, our people, our religion, our lifestyles in many cases. We Roma were murdered, our mothers, our fathers, our families, our ancestors, because of our race. Our people suffered horribly without infantry, a ruthless and merciless fate of attempted total destruction within the greatest concentration camp cemetery of Europe, Auschwitz-Birkenau. We Roma showed that we are able to demonstrate great courage and unity when in May of 1944 Roma prevented the total liquidation of the Roma concentration camp, although a few months later the concentration camp prisoners suffered the murder of 2,897 Roma persons, to the greater part elderly women, men, children and the very ill. We must remember the great example of 1944 set by our ancestors, but it's only with courage, unity and common purpose that we can prevail against those forces that would destroy us here in the present, that would disdain us, that would treat us as being invisible. It's only with courage, unity and common purpose that we can make yield before us these forces that would disdain us and ignore us. Our common course as Jewish and Roma people and non-Jewish and Roma people must be to help one another, to stand together, to struggle together, to work together. For if we do not, we will achieve nothing against the forces raised against us all in the present, and our ancestors would have died for nothing. It is all very good having respect for the dead, and that's appropriate, but as we the living that must remember the lessons of the past so they do not happen again. We must stand in unity and with common purpose. We have no other choice. This is the lesson of the Holocaust. And Escabo Boris from the National Gypsy Traveller Council. The next speaker again doesn't need much introduction because we all know her and we've all had the privilege of listening to her speak before, and that's Ruth Barnett. Ruth.
Oh, thank you. I see denial as the most serious problem today, and there are two sorts of denial. There is deliberate denial, and we all know of the deliberate deniers. They're quite easy to spot because they speak out. And there is unwitting denial. That is much harder to get hold of. And I want to share with you something I read in the Times this morning, 2nd of August, that has incensed me. An article about denial that leaves out any mention of the Roma in the Holocaust. I've written to the Times and I've circulated quite widely my letter. I am saying that this does double injustice, not only to the Roma in discounting, neglecting, leaving them out of the Holocaust, but also injustice to Peter Bazalgette, who I've spoken with personally, and he has assured me that in the Learning Centre, in the commemoration of the Holocaust in the future, there will be the Roma as well as the Jews.
Amen.
Thank you, Michael. I think it would be helpful, and I would be delighted if all of you who feel you can also write a letter to the editor of the Times. I'm sure you can get that article online if you can't get a paper, and complain. We're making very slow headway. I've been coming to this annual event and many other events in the Roma communities for many years, about 20 years, since I realised what was going on. The voice of the Roma traveller gypsies is slowly mounting, and so is the anger, certainly mine. It's definitely rising, the voice has to rise much more, as Gratan has already said, and it is more likely to do so if each and every one of us just keeps an eye open, a lookout, and when there is something about the Roma or not about the Roma that we simply can't agree with, to actually say so. If everyone decided not to accept what is unacceptable, we don't have to. The very least we can do is to stand up and say this is not acceptable, and others will then hopefully join in. Thank you for giving me a chance to say this.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rabbi Andrei, and he's from Brighton. He's come all the way here today to speak to us and address us.
Marmal, Mirefrale, my friends, my brothers, I stand here today with regret and in awe. I stand here in awe thinking of the endless chain of persecutions endured by the Roma people, by your people, throughout history. It did not start with the Poraimus, gypsy huntings in early modern Europe, branding of Roma in Austrian Empire, slavery in Romania up until the 20th century. Nay, they returned with the Poraimus. In the 60s and the 70s, Roma women and mothers has been forcibly sterilized all over Europe, everywhere. Communist Czechoslovakia, capitalistic Switzerland, socialist Sweden. Nowadays in Italy, Romani children are segregated at school, and Romani families are forced to live in ghettos. Roma families are evicted even now, right now, on the very day, throughout Europe, in the UK. It is an unending gallery of horrors, and for this I stand in awe. Marmal, Mirepral, my friends, my brothers, I stand today in awe with regret. Spiritual giants such as Simon Wiesenthal and Elie Wiesel, Holocaust survivors and witnesses, have reminded the world that Jews and Roma had been victims of the same genocide. But we Jews did not manage to make our voice heard. The words "never again," which should have been written in the heart of every human being, are just that, just words. Persecution of your people continues and never stops. For this, a Jew, I stand with regret. Marmal, Mirepral, my friends, my brothers, I am a rabbi. I am a religious person. Every time I speak in public, I'm used to conclude with words of hope. But it is difficult to find hope. How can we hope to defeat anti-Ziganism when the very victims of the Poraimus are denied representation? How can we say we learn from history? We don't even have the idea of the number of the victims, Roma and Sinti murdered the Poraimus. Children slaughtered in horrendous experiments, women sterilized, father and grandfathers humiliated in front of their families. How can we commemorate them? I have no answer. I stay with regret and awe, and I can only pray. To honor the martyrs, I want to conclude it with a traditional Jewish prayer. By the way, as a rabbi, we have a minyan, the number required for the recitation of such a prayer. So please join me. It is usually recited for the victims of the Holocaust, and I have slightly adapted it for this day. Ele male rachamim, shulchem bamromim amtse menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את כל הנשמות של מאות אלפי הרומאים וסינטים חללי ההשמדה באירופה שנהרו, שנמשחתו, שנשרפו ואנו בניסויים הכרזים בידי הלגיון השחור ואזוריו. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים נשמותיהם אדוני הוא נחלתם, ויעמדו לגורלם, לקץ הימים ונאמר אמן. O God, full of compassion and forgiveness, will dwell in the heights, provide a rest under the wings of the divine presence, together with the holy who shine like the stars in the heaven, to all the souls of hundreds of thousands of Roma and Sinti, victims of the genocide, murdered, slaughtered, burned, exterminated, tortured in cruel experiments by the Black Legion and their helpers. God of mercy will protect them forever and will bind their souls in the bond of eternal life. The everlasting is their heritage, and they shall rest peacefully to the end of the days. And let us say, Amen.
Our next speaker is the MP Simon Hughes, who is a member of the Holocaust Commission.
Thank you very much, Grattan and friends, and for me it's the first time I'm standing in solidarity today with you on this date, although obviously
Hopefully not the last.
hopefully not only not the last, but not because I have not been aware of the persecution of Roma and Gypsy and traveller people in Europe over the centuries, and that we needed to raise the profile. I'm actually no longer an MP. The electorate changed that in 2015, but I'm the president of the Liberal Democrats in London, and so I speak also for them, for us. The challenge is, as you said at the beginning, Grattan, to raise the profile of the issue and the sensitivity and the awareness, so that when people think about discrimination and persecution and the horror, they of course remember what happened to Jewish women and men. They hopefully remember also what happened to gay women and men, but they will also remember what happened to Roma and traveller and Gypsy women and men, not just in Auschwitz in 1944, but on many occasions. And what I have committed to do, and I can be brief about that, is to work with not just Peter Bazalgette, but work with the Holocaust Commission members. We still exist, the Prime Minister's Commission still exists. We have a watchdog role, as you rightly said, Grattan.
Yeah.
We therefore effectively meet annually to review how the Holocaust is being remembered. And it seems to me that it was right to put expressly on the agenda for our next cycle of consideration by the civil servants who are working for the Commission in number 10 Downing Street, but also by commissioners, that we need to give Roma and Gypsy and traveller people the same recognition that has been given rightfully and understandably so far to Jewish people. Just one last reflection. We've seen just this week how the whole nation can be alerted to terrible things that have happened, as we saw the memorial of Passchendaele on our television and heard on the radio in the last 48 hours. I think there are many people who are not yet aware both of the history and of the present and continuing persecution shared with us by the rabbi and others, which continues even in this country, where if you're a Gypsy family, a traveller family, a Roma family, you may, for all sorts of reasons, find it much more difficult to be housed appropriately, to be educated fairly, and to be employed without discrimination. So I don't think it's only about thinking back to remembering 1944 and the Second World War, but it's making sure the commitment is here in the EU to change it for as long as the UK is in the EU. I wish that would be forever, but we'll see about that. But in the United Kingdom also, whatever happens to our external political engagement side, very willing to be in solidarity with you and support in every way I can in the days and weeks and months ahead.
We've just had apologies from Rabbi Gluck, who unfortunately can't make it today, so I think we will have those through the events. The next speaker I'd like to call is Peter Jano, who's a pastor for the Romani people and he's based in Kent. Peter.
Dear friends, dear brother and sister, I speak just very shortly because I would like prayer in Czech language because this message going in Czech Republic. I've been last 3 weeks in Czech Republic and I see there very bad situation in Roma community and poor people. In Czech Republic exists now many populist politics, and this populist politics looking but feeling into from majority people it's racist, neo-Nazism and Nazism. And this politics looking this people and support him to speak bad for anti-Semitism, anti-Ziganism, and lot of politics scared for this situation. Just official politics not speak stronger like oppositely for these people. And for me, it's difficult explain everything English language. Just my heart say, you don't speak more, you pray. I would like to pray. Náš dobrý a milosrdný Bože, děkujeme ti za toto místo, že jsme se tady mohli sejít a mohli jsme vzývat tvoje slavné jméno, tvoji moc, tvoji dobrotu a spravedlnost. Proto děkuji každému, kdo sem přišel a každému chci, aby si dal do jeho srdce velkou sílu a moudrost, aby toto poselství šlo do celé Evropy, do celého světa, aby každý poznal, že nacismus není dobrá politika, rasismus není dobrá politika. A proto tě prosím, osvíť každého dobrého politika, dej mu moudrost, aby jsme se všichni sjednocovali pro dobro našich přátel, našich bratří a sester a každého člověka, který potřebuje pomoc. Smiluj se nad námi a pomáhaj nám ve všem dobrém. Děkujeme ti za všecko a klaníme se ti. Amen. Amen.
Our next speaker today is Seth Townsend, and he's with the Kosham of the Jewish and Muslim peoples.
Hello, many words have been said, so I don't need to say many more, but I just bring greetings from Kojam, community of Jews and Muslims who stand in solidarity with the remembrance, with the memory, because if we don't remember, then it happens again. And as Simon said, even in our country, even in this time, even at this very moment. And then I look at the newspapers and I see how insightful our press is. And we say we live in a free country, but we live in a country where people are pitted against each other. In Europe, people are being pitted against each other. People in Chechnya are being murdered because of their sexuality. There are attacks all over Europe at the moment. What we need to do is to stand up and speak out and say, no, we will not accept this from those people who are creating a false narrative. We need to remember, and Kojam stands in solidarity and in memorial.
Our next speaker spoke last year and moved virtually all the people who attended to tears, and she's got another part of her family history to regale us with today, and that's Daniel.
Thank you, Kim. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really sorry, but basically I want to share today with you again a story from our family, and it's a testimony, and also it's like my personal story which happened to me in the early childhood. Be honest to you, I didn't prepare myself today because all the week I have been thinking what I'm going to share, what I'm going to say to the people who will come and gather together and commemorate for this event. And I'm a single mother. I came here to UK in 2007 with my 2 children at that time. And to be honest to you, I didn't have that much money in my pocket, but sorry, I don't want to cry.
Be strong.
Yeah. come here to this country because not to take the benefits from the people. This is not my way to live, to beg on the street or rob someone or be a criminal. I didn't come to UK to take something from the people, but give. I'm from a Roma musician family, and all my life I have been taught by my grandparents and my mother that you have to always give for the people. You need to give them love, and you need to be always nice. And this is how I taught my children as well, that in one day they will be a good man. So basically, in my early childhood, I was a good listener to the oral storytelling of the Second World War, stories from my grandparents, and I was very traumatized by those stories, because they was not just stories what you read from the book, but that was a real life, what they have to live. And I remember one story when I was around maybe 6 years old, and two of brothers of my grandfather from the father side, who actually they survived the Holocaust, they have been musicians, and they could play violin. And when they reached to the death camp, then the Nazi, the SS soldiers, they have been asking from the Roma who can play music. And they have been like, yes, we can. And imagine that they have been forced to play music while the SS soldiers have been raping their women, their sisters, their mothers, and they have to watch it and play. And I remember the other story when they have been, like the children, they have been ripping off in front of their parents if they was not doing something. And I remember the story when my grandfather's brother said that when he was asleep, he didn't know he's asleep or he's awake. And he heard this shouting in the morning, and he said the day it was a night, like a night, and the night was like a day, and the people, they have been constantly in fear, but something was there which kept them alive, and that was the music. And the music gave him something to survive. And this is, I think, not this is why, but the music, it gave into something very positive into my life. And when I came to this country, then I had a cello, and when I was really in need, then I had to play my cello, so it gave me something like a power from my family, which I could carry here to this country. Sometimes I feel very angry when I see the media, what they are writing about us, because they treat us like a second citizen. We don't have a good picture in this country, and no one in the world. People have to understand that the Holocaust is not something which we asking for. We didn't want it to starve to death. We didn't want that our children will be raped or our women. We was not asking for nothing. We just was like a normal citizens. And this time as well, the Holocaust, a new Holocaust, which is now, I'm just asking myself when it will finish. Do I need to live like that forever? I'm 36 years old. My youngest son is 14. I have a 16 years old son. What we gonna give for our children? Just the pain? Just the bad memories? Why? This is my question for those who are making laws in this country or anywhere else in the world. Why we need to suffer? And who are you? Who are you to tell me that I need to suffer because of my color of my skin? That I look like cappuccino? Why? Why I'm different? I'm not different. We are all the same. We are all the God's children. There is no difference in between us because God created us equally. We are making the division and we are making the hate because the children, and I see on my son, on my children, they going in the school with Asian children, with the black, with the Muslim, with the Jewish. They don't care, they play together. We, the adults, teach them to hate and to behave like that. So it's up on us to make changes, to not to live in this kind of society. And be honest to you, if even you'll be included in this Holocaust Commission, which I don't think it will happen, because I feel it will never happen, because the Roma unfortunately are treated for how many decades like a second class of citizen. And I don't think it will happen soon. Because if you have a look at the history, and we know the slavery didn't finish for the black people for short time. They have been enslaved for 600 years and they had to fight still now. And this is happening with any culture. I would like to say thank you again that you have been listening to my story, and I wanted to sing a song actually, because there is one more little story when actually my grandfather's brother, he came and I used to sing for him, and when I was like very little, I'm short, I'm not too tall, but he used to put me in the chair to sing for him a song. And when I started to sing this song, then he came to me and said, "Shh, be quiet, the Gestapo is coming." So my mom, she got scared and she took me from the chair. But we have to sing a song. We don't need to be, shh, be quiet. We can be loud and sing our song how we want, because this is our right. Thank you so much for listening again.
Daniel asked some very important questions here. He also brought back the reality of the horror that mankind can visit on mankind, basically because of race, religion, even lifestyle. And I think every time I listen to it and I hear that, it actually brings that reality on. It's raining again, as it did last year, but to my mind, I think it's very appropriate for such a summer occasion as this. I think if it was nice and sunny and people were running around enjoying themselves on the grass, it might take away from that. Our next speaker will be Jenna, who I believe translated a book that many of you will know, but I won't go into that. Jenna.
Okay, can I ask you to start around here? My voice just isn't going to carry it. Okay, cool. Sorry. Those who want it. I don't want it to go there. Okay. Springtime, Holland, 1944. A cattle train loaded with prisoners. A girl, her eyes huge and dark, stares out of the open door of a goods wagon. She is at the start of a long journey which will take her to the gas chambers of Auschwitz. She is 9 years old. A cameraman stands on the platform. He is a prisoner too. His task is to film the departing train. Just before the wagon door is bolted shut, he focuses his lens on the young girl as she gazes out. After the war, the unknown girl in the film was assumed to be Jewish. Her haunting image became an icon of the suffering of Jews in the Holocaust. But half a century after the child had left Holland, a Dutch journalist, Hyde Park became obsessed with discovering who she was, because her image was shown in every war exhibition, on every television documentary, this unknown, thought to be Jewish girl. He eventually found out that she was a Sinti gypsy called Setela, murdered with most of her large family because of her Sinti identity. In 1994, Uitwagenaar published in Dutch an emotive account of his search for the girl's identity. The first English edition came out in 2005 and was republished last year. This is it. The book is called Setela, which is, as I said, the girl's name. We must remember this young girl. Setela has been reclaimed as a symbol of the Roma and Sinti Holocaust victims. Her photo is a testament of her dreadful journey and her tragic fate, linking her to all those who died in the camps. Thanks to the prisoner who filmed her, the journalist who identified her, the publisher, the publishers who publicized her story, we remember her name today. Setela. And thank you, Daniel. I'm finished.
Our next speaker today is David Landu from the Socialist Jewish Association. David.
Thank you. Jewish Socialist Group. Good afternoon on this terrible rainy day. Greetings from the Jewish Socialist Group. As an organisation, we were very fortunate to have in our membership Donald Kenrick, who some of you may have known, who educated us about the Roma, the history of the Roma, and especially in relation to the Holocaust. And that's has part of the reason Jewish Socialist Group has recognised the importance of the Roma and the importance of solidarity. Now, the other night we were seeing a film that Michael organised at the Amnesty International about the Roma in the Holocaust, and in the discussion at the end, Thomas said something which I thought was very important. He said that the greatest enemy of the Roma people is the nation state. And I thought about that, and yes, the nation state scapegoats people because they are the Roma people beyond borders, and the nation state defines itself as containing people who are part of that and that only, and so they can scapegoat Roma people. And that was also true of us Jews. The nation state has been our greatest enemy over the years, in terms of in terms of being a group that was beyond borders and could be scapegoated as an enemy within. Now, the Jewish Socialist group comes from a tradition of what's called Bundism, which is fighting for the rights and identity of our people everywhere, with no territorial ambition, but the ambition to make sure that we are recognised as a people in all countries where we are. And I think that's very important, because that's the situation that today the Roma people are still fighting for, and that is the battle with the nation state in a way, like Thomas said. And we see it today also with migrants, whether they're coming from inside Europe or outside Europe, stranded in Calais and so forth. Again, scapegoated because they are beyond borders, and therefore seen as an enemy within, or an enemy to keep out. So Jews, Roma and migrants today ought to be natural allies, and solidarity should be our watchword. No one is illegal. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Baddock. He is the chair of the Roma Nation.
I'm not chair. Roma Nation movement is the independent movement, so we are not accepting any leadership, any direction, because we believe that our own people should elect their own leader. Direct democracy, which is normal in any other groups. I don't see anyone like in British community that they're gonna go and represent in the parliament. Some chairman is sitting there. No, there is no chairman. There is a guy who is elected by, democratically elected by the people themselves. As I said, as I can say, my conclusion, we are aware that 6 million Jews have been murdered. We are aware by Ian Hancock, by the Romani scholars, that 1.5 million have been murdered. Because I have found out that the European Union and those experts are calling for 500,000 death tolls. The number is actually big higher, and we believe it is 1.5 million. I still believe what the Jews have done for themselves, that we, Roma, should do by ourselves. As I can say also, react on Professor Acton or Mr. David Landau, I respect their views fully, but it's on us, on the Roma, what we want, and which choice we want. And this is the way of democratic transition. The Roma nation is part of it, and is leading the democratic transition globally, that the Roma by themselves will decide what they really want, not self-elected chairmen. So my reflection on the Holocaust is this. We know that the European Union, the European nation committed the war crimes on us. It's absolutely true, and no doubt about this. Someone has to be prosecuted for those war crimes. We are aware that there is a big question mark in terms of compensation towards us. But look at it nowadays. We had some kind of security in the communist regime. Some kind of security. We never had skinheads, neo-Nazi or this kind of stuff in the Eastern Bloc. But now this is the type of democracy which is showing up in Europe. I cannot see that there is a secure place for Roma. Just the case in Asenovgrad in Bulgaria, where over 10,000 people, Bulgarians, the number is, last time on Amnesty I said 5,000, it's actually 10,000 Bulgarians have been marching against the Roma. What does it say to you? They are coming to us to kill us. They are not coming us to pleasing us or begging us or telling us. They want to get rid of us. So our security of the Romani nation is the first point. Same as for Jews. Same for any other nation in this world. security. And as I said, those issues in the nation state. Let me clarify. The God created the nation, not the human being. In the past, in the history, we know that those nations have been nomadic and they've been traveling and fighting battles with the blood, and they determined their own position and their own land. Like example, I'll give you a simple example. The Huns, who came from Mongols, they came in the 10th century to the Central Europe, and they beat up the Slavs and they created their own land, which is now known as Magyar, Hungarian. So there is no point about the nation should have a state. The nation is determined by the God, our divisions, our languages, our culture. This is what makes the nation. Not the land, not anyone's property, but the same kind. This is my point of these things, what I would like to say to you. Thank you for coming, it's raining, and be in solidarity with us. Thank you.
I'll just say we do have trade union representation here today, which I expect to now. Our next speaker is Anthony Silcoff. He's from the British Board of
the Board of Deputies
of British Students.
I just wanted to say a short thing on behalf of the Jewish community and the Board of Deputies. I just want to say something short about the past, the present and the future. We're here, of course, to think about the past and where the Roma community, alongside the Jewish community, were mercilessly slaughtered during the Holocaust. And of course, we've heard a lot about that today, and that's why we're here. And none of those victims must ever be forgotten. In terms of the present day, the Board of Deputies stands alongside all communities who are facing racism, but it's particularly apparent to me in the UK and in Europe that the level of open hostility faced by the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities it's obscene. I know that Gypsy, Roma and Traveller people face open discrimination in education, in employment, in the media, and we see this in our own country, shamefully, right here in the UK. And so looking to the future, I just want you to know that the Board of Deputies stands with you in combating this. We must root out all these forms of racism, whether it's anti-Semitism or anti-Gypsyism, or any other form of racism such as Islamophobia, which we're also seeing a rise in at the moment. So we want to get to know the Roma, Gypsy and Traveller communities better, and so over the next year or so we'll be working with our partner René Castan, who is also represented here, a Jewish human rights organisation, to make sure that the Jewish community and the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities can work together, so we make sure that never again does really mean never again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker today is Mr. Rishi.
Mr. Rishi.
I'm President of Gypsy Council UK, and I'm Chair of the International Roma Commission also. And I'm President and Director of the Institute of Romani Studies. I've made it a mission of my mission to the Government of India to recognize Roma as Indian overseas because they left India in 11th century, but now the new historians in India, they are doing research and they are saying no, they left India in 3rd century, not 11th century. And they are proving that their history, they are following the rules and everything, and I hope that will play some important role for the Roma people. And I want to welcome all those people who have come today to attend this memorial today. I hope rain won't dampen our enthusiasm and everything. And we have been coming here for many years and more or less have been embraced. Romani genocide or Romani Holocaust, known as Holocaust, I want to welcome all our speakers. I also want to welcome the institutions who are going on today. And three of our district council members, they are going to Poland to attend the Holocaust memorial today in Oslo. And they send their greetings to us. Roma genocide is one of the most shameful episodes in European history. During a Nazi period in Europe, we estimate about 500,000 Roma were exterminated by Hitler and Nazi rule in Europe. But they are forgotten. It's right, Jewish victims are remembered. There are numerous memorials to them. We welcome this. But the Roma genocide is not remembered in just a way. There has been progress. In 2011, the Polish government recognized 2nd August as a Roma genocide day. Germany gave to the Romani Rose. They set up a national museum there in 2012 in Germany. What we request our British government to, schools need to teach about Roma genocide. They need to children to teach their children from small that there was a genocide, how the Roma are suffering and everything. And local boroughs do have a Holocaust day, but they don't call any of the Roma people around. And I live in Woolwich Borough and Jewish, but they celebrate Holocaust Day, but they don't call anyone, even our people, many times. Roma genocide should be recognized officially and unofficially at all levels in Europe and in the world. This is the starting for fundamental change to make Roma diaspora fully equal in Europe and the world. The victims of evil must never be forgotten. We must say never again, never again. And all I can say is that I'm very sad to hear the story of Daniela that she had to suffer. But I hope we don't have to suffer anymore. And the main thing is the Indian government is supporting the Roma people now. And I hope one day they'll recognize Roma as non-resident Indians. And we'll look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Good old British weather. You know we'd miss it if it wasn't like this. Our next speaker is Rene Schultz. Please forgive me if I get the association wrong on the names, but my notebook is just about to come to grade and my pen's waterlogged. So I'm not going to be able to take the details. But Rene,
just say a few words. One of my colleagues has said European politics and culture is based on the amnesia of what happened to the Roma people. And that goes back to the beginning of when Roma arrived in Europe, which is probably more around 1100, but that's open for debate. No one knows about the slavery that the Roma endured, because when we teach slavery in British schools, we teach about the slavery of the black population in the States, but no one mentions the slavery of the Roma. The last state to abolish it was 1856 in Wallachia, which is today Romania. When we teach about the Holocaust, no one mentions the Roma as victims of persecution. And you can also already see it in the name. It is now acceptable to speak of the Roma genocide, but it is highly controversial to use the term Roma Holocaust. And in this round, I don't necessarily want to ask why and who is actually against including the Roma and others who were persecuted for who they were under the broad umbrella of Holocaust. If we do not have a much more inclusive understanding of what the Holocaust was about, and it was about a homogenization of society, of eradicating, eliminating, killing, exterminating those who were regarded as different, we today miss a trick. We do not understand what happened then, and we do not understand what is happening now. The Roma Holocaust did not start in 1933, and it didn't necessarily end in 1945. And what is also important to remember on a day when we mark the liquidation of the Gypsy family camp 1944 at Auschwitz, the majority of Roma killed during the Nazi period were not killed by Germans, were not killed by the SS. About 90% of the Roma who perished were killed by their fellow countrymen on the Balkans, in Poland, in Russia. They were not killed by Nazis because they didn't have to, the Nazis didn't have to do it. Roma were not liked anywhere. Anti-Roma racism was ripe everywhere, and the Nazis could just let everyone else do the dirty deeds for them. And that is also very important, because otherwise our memory is skewed, and if we have wrong memory, we will not know how to act in the future. We remember the past not for the sake of remembering the past. We remember the past in order to act responsibly in the present and to shape a common future. Only if we realize that the Roma have always been in common with us in history and throughout history, will we be able to shape a future where the Roma are a common part of our future. And that starts with education, and that's where we are miserably failing. And if I look at the number, there's one former MP here, and that is basically everything. That's shameful. That is absolutely shameful. That the day which was declared by the European Parliament in 2015 as the European Roma Holocaust Memorial Day is not recognized, and that no one from the majority parties, representatives in Parliament, are actually present here, that no one from the Holocaust Commission is actually here. This needs to change, and unless that changes, I'm talking to the converted. We all know what was going on, but we need to reach beyond this, and that should be actually why we are commemorating the 2nd of August. Not just so that we can stand amongst ourselves, but that we actually reach out and go into the majority society. Thank you very much.
Lilia makes good points here, and it's something that we have started to discuss amongst ourselves to expand this event, to bring in more people who we feel should have an obligation to attend here. The authority figures who find the time to attend other places and events that are not as important as this. So we are looking at that, and we would ask everybody here that next year, if you can come along again yourselves, but also to bring people with you and put it out to your local MPs and put it out to your local councillors and what have you, that it should be attended here. Right, my book is disintegrated, so I don't know if there's anybody here that I've missed off that wanted to speak, but if there is, can you say so now? Because we like to think that anyone that attends, regardless of who they are or where they come from, that they do have a voice by the very fact that they have attended. Is there someone here? Sorry?
Well, Michael's asking me to, so...
Well then, off you come.
Very quickly, we're all getting wet. Thank you. I'm Hazel Marsh. I'm a lecturer in Latin American Studies, actually, at the University of East Anglia, but I'm from a Romani family, and you were just talking about the importance of education. I'm really surprised by... I work in the politics department, and I'm quite shocked at the lack of knowledge. So I have one of these flags in my office. Even though I teach Latin American Studies, I do include the Roma of Latin America in my teaching. So I talk about why the Roma are in the Americas, why they've had to move on from their original places, about their the Holocaust, slavery, all of these things. So students learning about Latin America in my courses anyway take something away. And even if they're not doing my courses, they come in and talk about their essays and ask me what this flag is, and it's another reason to talk. And my colleagues, so we can all do that. We can generally